Well, good morning. I actually started on my manifold yesterday. I didn't get any videoing done. It's going to be a tough one. I have it lined up here. As you can see, this angle iron across the bottom has the holes drilled in it, spaced the same as the cylinder heads on the tractor. So that should be given my length for joining two pieces together. As you can see, the opening is huge that has to be closed, filled in. I intend to get some tight fitting washers on the 5/8 inch threaded rod and tack weld them to the channel iron so that the location on this end of the bolts is right. It's easier to check the spacing when I'm working on the gap before the two get welded together. So that'll be one of my next steps when I get some washers for there. And I am using a much different method than I've ever used for welding cast iron before. I always did it by preheating it red, welding with nickel rod and peening, and packing in wood ashes to cool. But as you can see, this very large manifold, especially being clamped to the channel iron to keep it in alignment, would be quite difficult to get this glowing cherry red and then throw it in the wood ashes to cool it slowly. So I'm trying a different product that was recommended to me. This cast iron repair kit contains two different electrodes, the burnt cast iron electrode and the cast iron electrode. It instructs to clean the cast iron, slightly heat it to draw the moisture out of the iron, but don't over preheat it, which is against everything I've always done welding cast iron, but I'm going to try to follow their instructions. So yesterday on this half, I ground the cast iron clean and just had it warmed up slightly with a big propane torch to draw the moisture out, and I started with the number 2 electrode. And mind you, I'm welding with just an old Lincoln buzz box that my dad bought on the farm over 50 years ago, and I've been using it since. So I'm using what I have available to me. I started out with it set at 115 amps, and that was just too much. It would burn right back real quick. I turned it down to 100, and I was still having a problem with it burning back. So I was welding with 90 amps. Years ago I had a high frequency unit on the welder, which made welding with low amperage easier, but that quit working. So I'm welding with just the straight buzz box at 90 amps. I might try 100 again. And my eyesight ain't what it used to be. My hands are still steady, but my eyesight just isn't what it used to be. So I'm going to take my setup apart here and set this piece on end to clean up the cast iron and start to weld a bead around that end of it. So this time I'm going to show you a little bit of it, and we'll see how it goes. And after I get a bead around this one, then I'm going to set it back up again, and I want to have those washers welded on the channel so I get the location exact and see how big my gap is in, which it will probably be close to the same. But let's see how it goes. And imagine that, a mud wasp nest inside the manifold. And I was wondering all along why there's such a large gap where it is broken two pieces. I guess I didn't show you, but when I had them matched up across the backside here, it was tight. It was a tight fit. And if you look here, the crack apparently follows its way up here too, and where this apparent crack is, it is very, very thin. So what I'm thinking is the crack came around on the manifold, and for some reason it was being run with a crack, and it burns away where the crack is. And as the crack came around, it burned away more and more here and less up here, because as you come around here, the gap would get smaller. And when it finally blew out, it just blew out and leave a very wide opening, and it just broke last across here. As here you can see the brake is quite clean yet compared to how much it's corroded away here. So I'm thinking that that's why there's such a large gap to be filled. And once again, you read the old equipment trying to decipher what took place. So I'm going to give it a go at grinding this clean and running a bead around here, because you're supposed to put a cladding of the number 72 burnt cast iron electrode on first, and then finish the weld up with their number 77 electrode. So I'm going to get at it. I'm back at my exhaust manifold over a week later. There's probably a lot of wind noise now, And if you remember, I told you there was a crack that went up in this way, in this direction. So I'm going to weld on that first. Now, since the first part of this clip where I was welding on it last week, I called Muggy Weld again to order more rod because I know I wasn't going to have enough, and I talked to a rep there. And he suggested that I should just try welding right away with the number 77 rod because it has more elasticity than the 72. But if the 77 doesn't take to the dirty cast iron very good, then you should clad it first with the 72. So I'm going to try with the 77 first this time. And also he said preheating helps too. I had followed the instructions, and he said basically when you're out in the field and it isn't an option, you don't have to preheat, but if you are able to preheat it. So I'm going to preheat this, and then I'm going to try welding it with number 77, and then I will pack it in wood ashes so it cools slowly. So in a little bit here, I'm going to get the propane torch going on it, and I'm going to try and fill this in up to here, and a little bit of this here where there's a big hole. So let's see how it goes. Now it'll stay there till morning. It probably wouldn't have to stay that long, but I'm not going to pull it out this evening anymore. So I actually worked on the welding about 35 minutes. Used 2 rods. We'll see how it looks after I get it out and clean it up. Thanks for watching.